Mike, while DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas refuses to use the word crisis and has even proclaimed the border is secure, the reality is things along the border, both the northern and southern border, seem to grow worse by the day. From human trafficking to drug smuggling, nothing seems secure. Perhaps the biggest threat to Americans are the deadly narcotics pouring across the border and killing Americans by the tens of thousands. Just last week here in El Paso, in the El Paso sector, during a primary inspection of a vehicle driven by a 24-year-old Mexican male, Customs and Border Patrol officers intercepted almost 32 pounds of fentanyl and nearly 80 pounds of methamphetamine. Later that same day, CBP officers intercepted more meth and fentanyl, this time from a 22-year-old female U.S. citizen. Then, minutes later, during a vehicle inspection, officers intercepted around 32 pounds of cocaine. Now, we have been to cities up and down this southern border, and the common theme among residents is that the Biden administration needs to act, and they need to do it now. Mike?
All right, Tim, we continue our focus coverage of Joe Biden's border crisis with the sheriff of Pinal County, Arizona, Mark Lamb. Sheriff Lamb, welcome back to Victory News.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
You bet. Now, Sheriff, you just watched several trafficking incidents at the U.S. border in Texas. We talked about those. How bad is the problem of sex and human trafficking in Arizona and across our southern border?
Well, it's terrible. It's something that we deal with every day, not just on the border where you would expect it, but we're 70 miles off the border at the where the I-10 interstate crosses into my county, 52 miles in the desert. And we use our helicopter in conjunction with Border Patrol to find people. We had 85 the other day we found in the deserts. Plus, we're out pulling traffic stops on the I-10, finding 10, 15 people in a car being trafficked in here in camouflage clothes. And then, like you said, we talk about the drugs. That is a huge problem. That is something that is going to be a scourge on America if we don't get on top of this. It already is.
No doubt. And Sheriff, the president of Mexico has written to Chinese President Xi Jinping asking him to control shipments of fentanyl and chemicals to keep them from arriving in Mexico. He's also deemed some of our congressmen as rude for criticizing Mexico's failure to crack down on cartels. Should we trust the safety of our citizens, especially our kids, from fentanyl to these two leaders?
No, we shouldn't, because under these two leaders, we have seen more fentanyl deaths and poisonings in this country than we've ever seen. And look, it's getting worse. We're starting to see things like xylazine included in the fentanyl. And xylazine is a non-opioid, so it's impervious to the Narcan or the naloxone. We just recovered in a load of methamphetamine, fentanyl pills. We also had something that we believe is gray death. Gray death is a combination of heroin, fentanyl, and carfentanil. Carfentanil is 100 times more powerful than fentanyl. One of my deputies actually started feeling sick. Luckily, we didn't have to hospitalize him, but this is a dangerous situation. It's getting worse every day.
You know, Sheriff, last month, 4 Americans were kidnapped, 2 killed while in Mexico, and a cartel basically wrote an apology letter and offered up a couple of their thugs and believed they got away with the murders. What's your response to that situation?
Well, I, like every other American, didn't like what I saw, and I didn't like the response from our government as to what happened down there either. You know, Americans want to feel safe, and they want to feel like their country protects them, and we just don't have that feeling right now. And I think that we look weak on a national stage because of incidents like this, where we don't come and really support these people, these families who lost loved ones. An apology from the cartel doesn't carry much weight, and I don't see that they did enough for what happened to these American families. I don't see that they did enough.
You know, and some in Congress have supported the idea of U.S. military intervention against the cartels in northern Mexico to protect American interests. How would those of you in law enforcement on our border respond to that type of action?
Look, we need help. What's happening down there isn't working. You know, this administration, their policies, it's just not working. The Border Patrol agents, CBP, they got their hands full. They're doing great work every day. They do the best they can, but the policies are overwhelming them. And this is a problem. This is terrorism. These people are striking fear in the hearts of Americans. They are also invading this country. We need to do something about it. I would support it, and I think most law enforcement support whatever action we could take to destroy destroy these cartels and what they do to American people.
And Sheriff, you're right, it is terrorism. DHS Secretary Mayorkas was asked on 60 Minutes what happens with the surge of illegals when Title 42 ends. Here's his answer. Take a listen.
So we are in discussions with Mexico with regard to how they will handle any increase in the number of individuals seeking to migrate north.
Now, he said that DHS has all sorts of contingencies if Mexico doesn't come through. What's your confidence level after hearing his comments?
Well, it's all just a word. It's like just words. It doesn't really mean anything. Let me simplify it for him and let me simplify it for the Americans. It is going to be a disaster once they remove Title 42 if we continue with these policies. And I don't see this administration committed to changing them.
All right, Sheriff Mark Lamb in Arizona, thank you for your time.